Barbell Shrugged. I'm your host, Mike McGoldrick, here with Alex Macklin.
What's up?
CTP behind the camera.
Yo!
And the mic. He's mic'd up today.
Shaka bros.
And we're here with our very special guest at Power Monkey Fitness Camp, Chris Henshaw. Chris, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for taking the time to hop on and answer some questions.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's nice to be here.
Yeah.
So for those out there who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be a coach at Power Monkey Camp.
So my main background is in the endurance community. I came originally from the swimming world, and I eventually transitioned at the age of 18 into the sport of triathlons. I raced as a professional from around 1982 to 1989. My specialty was longer distance triathlons, Ironman. I've done a total of 10 of those.
You've done 10 Ironmans.
10.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
A long time ago. So, really, actually, after a number of years, for me, it almost doesn't count, right?
Yeah.
With the exception, I did have some success in the sport. I mean, Ironman distance races were a specialty of mine, and I ended up placing second overall in the Hawaiian Ironman.
Oh, wow.
And that I'm really proud of. I feel like that accomplishment set me into a tone that has carried with me for the rest of my life. It's really one that you work hard and you will have something that satisfies you that you can pull on when times get tough.
What is the, like, just for people who don't know, like, what is that? I know what it is, the Hawaiian one, where, I was seeing it on, it was sometimes on NBC.
Yep.
Yeah, they showed it. So what's that race?
So that race, it consists of a 2.4-mile ocean swim, and then you get out and you do a 112-mile bike ride.
Jesus.
And then you get off of that and you do a 26.2-mile marathon. The tricky part of it is that it's done in Hawaii, and when you get off the bike, it's 11:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
So even though you've done all of that volume, you now have to run in the heat of the day.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Oh, I've seen it. I saw it on TV. They used to air it. I don't know if do they still air
They
it?
do.
Okay,
No, it's a massive event.
Yeah. They would air it like every summer or something like that, and then you'd see it, and then they'd make a big kind of almost like a documentary out of it and cover the people that are in it, and then they follow the people, and you see people like fall out and all this kind of stuff.
Man.
And so to finish it is like a true test of endurance.
Oh, yeah.
When you talk about doing 10 of them, that's absolutely mind-blowing. But when I think of that, I think of the training volume that has gone into prepping for 10 of those. Like, that is a lot of training, because I've seen some programs for someone who wants to do an Ironman, and it is hours of work.
And that was back in the 80s, you said. So did you have like a giant-ass Walkman in your pocket, like helping you through all those runs, or what?
No, not at all. Not at all. It was a lot of lonely days, that's for sure. You know, and it shocks me when I think about, the things that went through my head that I actually thought were good ideas. Like one time I was in Northern California. California is a very, very big state. And when you're sitting in the north and you're having breakfast and you say to yourself with your buddy, you're like, why don't we ride our bikes down to Santa Barbara? And that from where we were was 1,250 kilometers. And we did it in 4 days. And that, to me, sounded like a good idea. What was even better is we just brought a backpack, and we thought that wasn't enough volume, so we taped our running shoes to our bike frames, and we thought we'd actually do some runs after doing a nice, easy 250-mile ride.
Oh, man.
My gosh.
That is insane.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And so now you work with CrossFitters primarily, or?
I do. CrossFit, I really credit it for restoring my health. All that volume really took its toll on me. I found myself at the age of 45 where I was the guy that was on those moving sidewalks in airports, where I was standing off and riding that thing down to my gate. And it was because my body was just banged up. It felt brittle. I was really feeling like I'm made of glass. And I was destined to just be in that space for the rest of my life. And I happened to be in a business meeting over in Santa Cruz, and I ran into Annie Sakamoto. And Annie, as you know, is an incredible human being, very friendly, very outgoing, very intelligent, and she took up an interest in the work that I did. And she said to me, she says, you've done a lot of volume in your day, but it's with the same muscle groups over and over again, and maybe if you strengthen those neglected muscle groups, you could become functional.
Yeah.
And for me, that word functional, I mean, it's so ironic that over 8 years ago, she says that, and it's functional fitness. And I eventually worked up the courage to go in, and I had a great coach by the name of Sherry Keener. For 3 years, did one-on-one instruction, and brought me back to health. And I am immensely grateful for that. To think that I am beyond functional today. You know, my mile time is under 5 minutes. I run a 400 in 60 seconds. I have a 17:10 5K, and I'm 52 years old.
Yeah.
That I will now give back to the community in any way I can.
Yeah.
That's legit.
That's legit. When did you get started with CrossFit?
So I got started at the age of 45. So I'm
7
coming
years
up.
ago.
So yeah, I'm coming up on my 8th year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did 3 years at Santa Cruz Central, and then I went over to NorCal CrossFit, and I've been there ever since.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been in the CrossFit community for almost, a while, since it's, one of the originals.
Yeah.
You've been a while longer than I have, so yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
I know people tell me, it's like, wow, are you surprised at, how things are going for you in the community? And I always tell them, I'm like, yeah, that 8 years went by fast.
Well, at what point did you start working more with athletes? Was it just any CrossFit athlete, or did you have a focus on higher end games athletes?
So what I had done is I had decided to pick a gym that was closer to my home. I didn't know that when I signed up for CrossFit, that there was multiple affiliates around the world. I only knew Annie Sakamoto, and so I was driving an hour to her gym and back 3 times a week for 3 years.
Not running.
Yeah.
But I did during that time start running, and I noticed the value in my endurance doing small doses of CrossFit training, doing it 3 times a week, what it was bringing me in terms of quality of my work product on the track, on the open road. I was seeing performance gains that I never even imagined to be achievable.
So you're saying because of your endurance background, it made the performance gains in CrossFit that much easier?
No, it made my endurance improve substantially because of dosing myself with small amounts of CrossFit, so 3 times per week.
Yep.
And so when I was at NorCal, I had some friends that slowly started joining me out on the track and doing my track workouts. And it was just a fun group that we would get together 2 times a week and run. And I was at NorCal for about a year, and Jason Kalipa popped into the gym, and I'll be honest, that day, it was Helen, and Helen's my jam. Right? It's not a lot of heavy movement.
It's an aerobic workout.
Right,
Yeah.
and I never picked up a barbell before starting CrossFit, and so lighter weight body movements are
a lot of running. Yeah.
And a lot of running.
Yeah.
And so I admittedly showed off, to the champ, and he talked to me for 1 or 2 sentences afterwards, and it was that was in November, and then January of 2013 he gave me a call. And he asked me, he said, I'm tired of getting last in every endurance event at the CrossFit Games, and if I can fix that, which I have tried every which way, I think I can get on the podium. Would you be willing to coach me? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, I've never coached a CrossFit athlete, and here's a 2008 champ calling me.
Yeah.
And he then seals the deal by saying, I will never question your workouts. I will always do whatever you tell me. And so
the
that was
ideal athlete.
And he has been. We talk about coachable athletes all the time, and a coachable athlete is very rare. The one that will listen to you and never question you. And Jason, he's a true soldier.
Yeah.
Right. And then we started, and my feeling is that what would happen if I took a pure CrossFit athlete and dosed him with true endurance programming? What would happen? And so I experimented on him. I next met Garrett Fisher and Neil Maddox, and at that games that year, Jason went on to place 2nd. Garrett got 5th, and Neil got 9th. And for me, it doesn't mean that you have a methodology now, right? Because you did it with a population of 3. And so I went out and I really copied what Glassman did. Glassman, what I felt was so fantastic is he put his workouts out on .com for free. And it was for the sole purpose to validate a new fitness methodology. He needed a larger sample size to prove it.
Yeah.
And they came by the hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands. And pretty soon, you know what? It validated what he was saying.
Yeah.
So I kind of took the same approach, and I took on anybody and everybody, and I did it for free.
Yeah.
I did it for free I really didn't start making money until June of last year. So for 2.5 years, I did it for free, and
Now you're just like swimming in cash, right?
No,
okay.
it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. What is your methodology that you use?
So part of what I realized in talking with Jason Khalipa is that there was a perception that, Jason, I'm slow.
Mm-hmm.
My endurance is weak. And so what do I need to do to fix that? I need to go out and run fast.
Mm-hmm.
I need to run fast to improve my endurance. And he was equating speed with his endurance. And those are on opposite ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of it is that, when Jason would go to the track, he would do 400-meter intervals for time. And he would then do a second one for time, take a small amount of rest. And funny story, when I asked him the first time, so then you go out and you do a third one? And he's like, oh, no. I'm too tired. I can't finish the third one. I stop halfway. And I'm all, well, what's the plan after that? And he's all, no, the workout's done. I hop in my car and I go to the gym. And that's the issue that he had, is that he was neglecting his aerobic system.
Mm-hmm.
He was neglecting the system that contributes more than 50% of your energy
Mm-hmm.
on durations longer than 1 minute.
Mm-hmm.
So all of his training was focused on 1 minute and shorter time domains.
Right. Maybe more too intense too often for the shorter time domains, and maybe less training of the system.
Yeah, he needed, actually, his issue was his volume. He didn't have enough time on his feet. He was really focused on high intensity training across the board.
Yeah.
And so his ability to survive beyond 1 minute was almost zero.
Yeah.
And so for me, the initial experiment was, let's slow this guy down and put more time on his feet. And so that's what we did. We started a program of running 2 times per week.
So what year did you start working with him?
I started working with him in January of 2013.
Okay, because I remember I competed with him in 2013, and that year they had a lot of long events.
Yes.
They had the long burden run. If you go back and watch 2013 games, they had the long burden run, which had a 2-mile run in the beginning, and then like this long like pig flip where you like moved it down a football field, and then you had a carry log. It was like a 30-minute workout. We had the row. We had the half marathon row. We had the Naughty Nancy workout, which was 4 rounds of overhead squats and running around the entire stadium. So a lot of volume on longer workouts. And so it was no fluke when this guy was finishing. He won the burden. He won the row.
Both rows.
Yep, and he was top 3, I think, in the
Naughty Nancy.
In the Naughty Nancy. And I remember being blown away like at his development in that, because I'd always seen him as like this very powerful, just bear of an athlete who would just crush the strong power stuff and then kind of hang on the endurance stuff. And I'm like, this guy's winning the endurance stuff now. Something changed.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I mean, seeing him pass out that one year, was that 09? The year Miko won? Passed out on the run, yeah.
Passed out.
Yeah. So just some control, too.
Yeah, I mean, that was another issue that he had, and that's an issue in CrossFit. Here at the Power Monkey Camp, we're lucky enough where Trueform came in and provide 12 Trueforms. And so we're able to do some real up-close and personal one-on-one coaching with athletes on the Trueform, right, instead of having to chase them down the trail. And part of what CrossFit athletes struggle with is they believe that in order to have a good result, I've got to take it out hard. And then they always rely on hope as their strategy to bring it home. And hope will 100% of the time let them down. It is about pacing and understanding the workout that you're about to do, understanding and assessing the difficulty of that workout and the time domain, and making sure that you actually are, quote, pacing it correctly. Because you don't have infinite energy reserves.
Right.
And so you need to manage those.
Right. Yeah, actually, I read an article recently written. It was talking about how high-level CrossFitters, like we say, like CrossFit is high intensity, but really it's so you can sustain that intensity over a period of time to get the work done.
Work capacity.
Right.
And that's what we call it, right? You go to the level 1 and they call it work capacity.
Right.
How am I going to improve my work capacity?
Right. So you said that you gave him two workouts per week.
That's right.
And what kind of training did you mostly have Jason do?
So all of my athletes, even today, there's very few exceptions that run 3 times per week.
Okay.
The protocol really is 2 times per week. And really,
it doesn't seem like a whole lot.
It's not. I mean, but part of it is that we in CrossFit know that because of the number of movements that we are doing in the sport, there is a significant carryover.
Yeah.
We've all done it where I haven't bench pressed in 2 months, and then I go and do a bench, and it's like, whoa, I PR'd. How is that possible?
Right.
So these phenomenons are occurring where you don't need to do the volume because of the crossover and different types of movements.
The transferability, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So part of what I did in taking on athletes for free for so long, matter of fact, so most of my athletes I don't charge me. There's not one. So I had 65 at the games last year. I never received anything from, and that is to hone in on the methodology.
Right.
And what I've learned is 2 times per week of different intensities is what creates adaptation. And we're seeing adaptation in these athletes, like you saw Jason Kleep in the 2013 games, where they're improving their mile time, like Rich Froning. His mile time has gone from 6 minutes down to sub 5:25, running 2 times per week.
And you work with Rich as well? Yeah.
Yeah, so, we all saw Rich walk in the 333. And one of the things that Jason laid down the law on early is you're prevented from working with Rich. But but as soon as Jason went team, I guess, he called and
Free
said,
agent.
right. And so I got a phone call. And for me, when Rich asked, for me to coach him, I'm a fan of the sport. And it was awesome to get that phone call. I mean, and I was nervous. But the thing that I really sat back and thought about is like, I knew I could make him a better runner just because he was training old school way of pure high intensity training, and he was neglecting his aerobic system. I knew I could make him faster. But what if I made him a worse CrossFit athlete? Here's the 4-time champ, and now what happened to him?
That would have been my first thought. Man, I hope I don't screw this up.
Right. And so it's kind of like a risky move, but because I wasn't making any money, I had no risk.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just go do back, my job, and my hobby goes away. And so what's ironic is that I this week did my very first workout. I came to Cookeville in December of 2014, and I did that workout with Rich 2 days ago. And what an awesome improvement. And one of the most amazing things, his running has substantially improved, but Rich has been vocal about it. Every single one of his lifts in his first 6 months in working with me went up. His vertical leap went up 2 inches, and here's the 4-time champ, not only improving his mile time, but all of his lifts increasing. And so
you can do both.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest test was Matt Frazier. That was the scariest because here is a pure specialist, right, in weightlifting.
Right.
What would happen?
Yeah.
I was comfortable that I wasn't going to make him worse CrossFitter, but really the holy grail would be what happens to his lifting?
Yeah.
And there was a pretty famous workout that he did with Rich Froning out here last June, and he ran, it was 3 rounds. It was a series of 9 600s, so it was 3 rounds of 3 by 600 meters with 40 seconds of rest between the 600s and 4 minutes between the rounds. And he was holding 2 12s, which is a 6-minute mile pace.
Wow.
So it was 5,400 meters.
With incomplete rest.
Right. So 3 hours later, they went up to the barn, and he clean and jerked 375 for PR.
Wow. So you said that you'd address that fear that you obviously don't want to make him worse than that. So for those listening, like, why would that be? Why would doing aerobic training or endurance training affect the lifting? Like, what in the past have we learned, and maybe we're learning now that's different, that you can do both?
Well, so there's not a lot of information on that, and that's the fortunate spot of coaching a lot of people is if you coach one athlete and you see a phenomenon occur and you've never seen it before, it may just be an anomaly.
Right.
But where I'm seeing it as, it's a pattern. So like, working with Camille and all of a sudden where she was plateaued in strength, she starts a running program, focuses on her slow twitch muscle fibers, focuses on developing her aerobic system, spending more time on her feet. All of a sudden her lifts go up. Lindsay Valenzuela, I mean, there's dozens and dozens of them that happens to. And I see that as a huge grouping. And I think that what presents the challenge is that you don't have a large enough sample size to see it as, wow, this isn't an anomaly, it's a pattern. And so, yeah, that to me is what's really exciting is that things that I'm seeing is really unique. And that's because CrossFit created something different. They really created a sport for the everyday athlete, right? There's no specialists in our sport. the ones that go to the games, they're great in a broad range of activities, right? And so we're seeing phenomenons that were never thought possible. I mean, how is it possible that Rich Froning can go, or how about Matt Frazier can go from being a weightlifter to running a sub 5:15 mile?
Yeah.
How is it possible?
Yeah. If you had
Running
to,
2 times per week.
Sorry, go get. I was going to ask if you had to. I know you don't maybe necessarily know, but if you had to guess why increasing the aerobic capacity helps in so many areas, what do you think that would be? Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people about it, and you know, we definitely need to do a study on it because I think that's what makes this sport so unique. I mean, the fact that we're seeing these phenomenons, we're not asking these athletes to run a substantial volume. Every one of my athletes eventually hits a certain volume in their workout, and it causes a muscular stamina issue.
How much would that be? Sorry to interrupt.
So every athlete's different. So like Camille could do a 12,000 meter track workout and then go in the gym 3 hours later and PR. Other athletes may run like Jason Kalipa. His number is about 8,000 meters. And so eventually that number, that volume hurts them. But that's the carryover, right? Is the transfer into the everyday athlete, right? The 99% of the population that has zero interest in competing, the fitness enthusiast. For them, we kind of hone in and really have perfected the highest value for their time when they go out and they do a cardiorespiratory endurance type workout.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to ask about the general pop on how this might relate to them, because we're talking about these changes in elite CrossFitters, right? Like Frazier's PRing his clean and jerk, but he's also got 12 or however many years of experience in Olympic weightlifting, so getting a little stronger over time could also benefit to that. So for those that are just, been working out for a couple of years, like what kind of carryover might you see, and how could you apply this to them?
That's the most fantastic thing. It is very difficult to squeeze out that kind of performance in an elite athlete. They've really done an outstanding job in finding areas for improvement. So those large gaps, they're not there. But the everyday athlete, right, the recreational athlete, the fitness enthusiast, part of what they're doing, most of the athletes that I coach are just interested in general fitness, right? Number one, general fitness. Number two, calories. Right?
Yeah.
And so for me, what is the highest and best use of their time, right? And I do believe that people's time is going to get more and more precious. And so what is that protocol? And I feel that working on your engine 2 times per week, along with doing 2 to 3 CrossFit workouts per week, is a phenomenal protocol.
Yeah.
It builds their engine. It allows them, if they need to, and they want to go on vacation and do mountain hikes, they've got both systems. They've got strength and they've got endurance.
Yeah. Could you give me like an example, like a specific, like let's say for instance, take me, okay, I have no aerobic endurance background. Well, maybe in high school, whatever, but I weightlift. Okay, so what if you wanted to increase my aerobic capacity? How would you start me? Like, where would I start?
So if I was onboarding you, what I have to do is I have to look at your prior results and make an estimation on where you need to spend your time to maximize adaptation. So I would ask you of a result of an anaerobic event, something that was high intensity, and how well did you perform? So 400 meter is a good test. And in CrossFit, most people have a max effort 400 meter time. Most weightlifters don't, but do you?
No, but I did Fran.
So
we do the 60-second max cal a lot too.
Yeah.
So but that's part of it, right? Is that it's the level of, it's the same thing. Jason Kalipa, here he did the 08 games, and here it's now January of 2013. He never did a mile for time.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
Oh,
but
wow.
he knows his 1 rep, his 3 rep, his 5 rep of 500 million lifts, right? So I would then, let's say that you're Rich Froning. You have a 60-second 400, and then I would then pick an aerobic event, a mile. Most CrossFitters have run a mile, right? That's the most common distance that they have run, and have you run a mile?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have, but let's say you're Rich Froning and you ran it in 6 minutes, right? Both on their own are good. But what I'm interested in is the relationship between those 2 times. I have an anaerobic event and I have an aerobic event. How much did you slow your speed from 400 meters to a mile? So we all know that as we extend out the endurance curve, we slow down. But how much did you slow? And that was the number one question, when Rich, I was dying to know what his rate of slowing was. So he slows from 400 meters to 800 meters, then 800 meters to a mile at a rate of 28.7%. Now,
You mean his times?
His speed.
His speed.
Yeah.
Okay.
his speed does.
Okay.
So on its own, that 28.7 doesn't mean anything, but with my work and also the work of Beyond the Whiteboard, we've looked at over 17,000 CrossFit athletes who have done a 400 and a mile time. And the average really is for the fitness enthusiast, the non-specialist, right? We're talking non-runners, that running's not their sport. The number's between 20 and 21. So what that tells you is that Rich Froning has a 28.7. His target is 20 to 21. Now I have a choice. I could either make his 400 time slower, right? Move it from 60 to 63.
Yep.
Or I could drop his mile time down to 520. Then he's in the sweet spot.
Yep.
So that assessment is what I would do for you, because I'm trying to define, if I only get you 2 days a week, what's the highest and best use of your time?
Right.
So Rich Froning was so extreme. It wasn't saying that his times were slow. On their own, they're fast.
Right.
But his mile time relative to his 400
difference
was
yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was one of the worst I'd ever seen.
Right.
And so where did I spend his time? Working volume.
Yeah.
And I slowly brought his time down. Matter of fact, in the first 10 weeks, he dropped his mile time from 6 minutes down to 5:41.
Nice.
Can I ask you what numbers you would want to see in an elite level and then like a general pop? And not the percentage, but just give me some, like the 400 and the mile time.
No, so it's really about percentage. And so most of the people that I work with are in that 8 to 10 minute mile range. That's
Okay.
their PR time. And it's always the relationship, because you're trying to define what's the highest and best use of their time. I don't have the luxury. So running coaches, if I'm having you run 80 miles in a week, I can make all sorts of mistakes in my programming, right? Because I have enough volume to catch up on those items.
Right.
But if I only get you 2 times a week, I must put you in the direction that's going to bring you the most value.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that assessment is really important for someone to know. Like me, my number's 15%. Now, granted, I'm 52 years old, and aging population, speed because of reduction in muscle goes away.
Right.
But I need to spend more time on speed. I should not be doing the same protocol as a Rich Froning when he started. Right? So that's how it's done.
Have you seen any CrossFitters, high level, or you can say general pop too, but high level that need the 400 to go faster and the mile looks fine?
Most of the
They're not powerful enough, I guess.
Right. So when an athlete reaches the age of 40 to the age of 70, their stride length gets cut by 50%. And that is because of range of motion and power, force. And so higher intensity speed work for them, because their percentage is lower than 20, becomes the dominant focus. So for me, my 400 is 60 seconds, my mile is 4:57. Those on their own sound fine, but I really should be running somewhere around a 57-second 400.
And then you talked about that volume threshold, or that amount that somebody can tolerate. Like, how do you go about finding that? Do you put them under? Yeah. Like how do you go about finding that?
So that's a great question. What you will realize is that at some point in time, when you get to be at a high volume, your performance in the gym goes down. So I really work for the CrossFit coach. So Katrin and Matt, I really work for Ben Bergeron. I take direction from Ben. Ben is the driver. He's the master of it all. So, for example, Camille is working with Doug Chapman. I work with Doug, and he knows what I'm programming in there. And if they see fall off in the gym, then I need to make sure that I'm providing a balance, right? So I'm trying to push their time domain to build up time on their feet, right? They may have a 13-mile run. Wouldn't be surprised. And so my job is to do that. But the priority is what occurs in the gym.
So you prioritize what actually goes in the gym. So you would actually cut your stuff before you would say, Ben, you need to cut maybe what you're doing in there.
Right, because every athlete can run the most common distance that a fitness enthusiast would run, and that is 5,000-meter workout in one time per week, and another workout would be between 3,000 and 4,000 meters. So we're talking a total of 6 miles in the week.
Yeah.
That is not
Not a lot.
No.
I used to run cross country, and we ran like 7-8 miles a day.
Right.
So
Right.
It's like swimming too. When I do some swimming, and then the volume that I see myself doing, and then when I go and I see like middle school kids up there, their warm up on the board. Their warm up is longer than my entire swim workout. Like
Yeah.
The volume that they're doing with that. So
Right.
that leads me to a question I have for you. I just went blank on it. Never mind. Come back to me.
But I think that you brought up swimming. So that is a very difficult thing for a specialist coming into CrossFit, because CrossFitters, games athletes, they swim 1 time a week, and they swim 1 mile. That's it. So they're going to swim 1,600 meters, and that's it.
Yeah.
1 time per week. I came from the triathlon world. I was swimming 25,000 meters a week. When I was swimming, I was doing 40,000.
yeah.
And so to adapt to that is a challenge. But what you realize is, because of all the other things that they're doing, they can create performance gains on a substantial level with that little volume.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's general. It's general. I was gonna ask, do you do any other like modalities, like besides running? Do you do rowing or anything else?
I do. So one of the things that's really important for athletes to understand is that, and this is one of the mistakes that athletes make, when a new runner comes out and they run, they have running speed. They don't have any range of gears. And part of what they need to do is they need to recognize that if I want to be good at a certain speed, I must practice that speed, because the way your body recruits muscle fibers, the way in which it sequences, and the way in which they fatigue are speed dependent. If you want to run a 6-minute mile, you've got to practice training at a 6-minute mile.
Right.
That's why they do intervals on the track, right? Is that it allows you to train at your goal pace. You take a small rest, and then you go back to your goal pace.
Right.
Well, it's the same thing with different movements. You can't just do running, because running will develop running, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of carryover, right, from what's happening in the engine. But if you want to be well-rounded as a fitness enthusiast, you've got to mix up your work.
Yeah.
So regular protocols is hopping on the rower, hopping on the bike. And then, you know what? I strongly encourage all of them to go out and enjoy your fitness, right? Go on hikes, do yoga, whatever you want. But protocols are not just limited to one activity.
Yeah.
Running, though, is, without a doubt, the highest value for your time.
And why is that?
Because in running, what you're doing is you're supporting your own body weight. And part of what you're doing in your running is that you are developing this range of gears, essentially intensities. And that feel that you're bringing in, that feel for intensity, is what carries you into all of your other movements. What makes CrossFit so challenging is you are doing workouts that are in combinations of movements or weights that you've never seen before. So how do you know how to pace that, really?
Yeah.
Right.
It's the feeling.
Yeah.
Right? And by supporting your own body weight in a CrossFit workout, it carries over that feeling. And that's where the precision comes in. That's why games athletes are so incredible, because they can look at a workout and then just start and do it by feel.
They can look at it and know exactly what pace they need to hold that.
By
hold
feel.
for that workout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does injury like pop up in this if they're adding more, like they weren't doing a lot of aerobic stuff and before, like what considerations do you have for that, like injuries?
We're very careful on the amount that we ramp in terms of volume.
Yeah.
But again, for the fitness enthusiast, the volumes that we're doing is very, very light.
Okay.
You know, when I started with Rich the first 10 weeks, he never ran more than 6.2 miles a week. And so I was concerned about that, right? And so part of it is building that structure by spending more and more time on his feet.
Yeah.
And so now he's running 3 times. I probably shouldn't have said that.
That's a secret.
Yeah, Rich has openly said that the highest value for Mayhem is running 3 times per week, and it is really because of those adaptations that carry over so greatly.
Yeah. And how long would you work with an athlete? And how long would they continue like a running program like you would give them?
So they continue. I mean, I'm with Camille now. We're on 4 years, and
oh, wow.
It just continues as a lifestyle. Part of it is that you must create workouts, programs that engage them. And what I always try and do is hold them accountable for the knowledge that's generated in that workout, because that's what brings them back. I always find it interesting that an athlete knows their 3-rep back squat workout that they did 2 months ago and the weights they lifted, but they don't know the speeds that they did in a running workout.
Right.
You need to carry that knowledge from workout to workout so that you improve in the same way that you would do in anything else that you do in the gym.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If you don't know it, if you don't know it, you can't manage it. You can't measure. If
You're
you don't
going
measure
blind.
it, yeah, you can't improve it.
Right, going blind. And so part of it is just making sure that the workouts are written in a way where they're engaged and they want to learn.
Right.
And running is typically done where it's like, oh, go run 5 miles. But the problem with that is that that's not necessarily the highest, best use of their time, and they're going to blow their brains out with boredom.
Right.
So you've got to create something that stimulates them to want to come back, to pick running as their movement that they selected that day for their fitness. And
Which
that
you don't see much of. People look at running, they're just like, oh, running, really?
well, I mean, I don't personally. I mean, the people in my class, I don't enjoy running.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me.
Yeah.
It really hurts me. But if I'm engaged, then I'll do it.
Yeah.
We're going to go through some of the questions now that we'd mentioned before.
Sounds good.
We asked on social media, we let them know we're interviewing you. So we got a big list here, but I'm going to do my best to sort through some of the ones that we've already kind of answered.
Okay.
Because a lot of them people have asked that we already covered. So one of them was heart rate training. Are there benefits of training with a heart rate monitor in CrossFit? Oh, yeah, sorry. L_Campos.
Yeah.
L Campos.
So heart rate's a tricky subject. Coming from my old world in triathlons, we use heart rate monitors all the time. I think it's a tool to measure what's going on. It's a tool. The problem is unless you go out and you get a VO2 max, you're really shooting blind. And what I mean by that is I used to race with a guy by the name of Mark Allen, and he had an incredibly low heart rate. His max heart rate was 40 beats lower than mine. Now, if we're going off of percentages, and most programs that are out there are using heart rate max and going percentages off of that, we would be wildly off in our adaptation and the stimulus that we're trying to get. Another thing is that how do you know that your anaerobic threshold, right, that threshold of where lactic acid starts building up in your body and creating fatigue, how do you actually know where that is off of a percentage unless you get it tested?
Right.
So would you say that 85%? Well, I'm here at the camp, and I've seen lactate threshold numbers that are as low as 59% of their VO2. I've seen another person here, Julie Fouché. Hers is 95%. So if Julie was training at 59 of her VO2, she would not create any adaptation.
Right.
So that's what makes it tough.
Yeah.
But if you get a VO2, now you're talking.
Gotcha.
So you're doing testing. You're doing a lot of testing here. You're doing what kinds of tests?
So we're doing a VO2 max test to test the aerobic capacity, how much oxygen that they could bring in through the atmosphere, process through their body, and convert to energy.
And that is the VO2 number?
Yeah, that's your peak. And
Okay.
then what you're doing is you're measuring various thresholds below that to create these heart rate zones.
Right. And I guess, so what would be like, if someone got a test, what would be kind of a good number for a CrossFitter?
So it really depends on male or female. Men have higher numbers than women because it's dictated by muscle mass.
Right.
And so as you age, you lose more muscle volume. And so as you age, your number gradually declines. When I was in my 20s, and it's a genetic gift, I was born with a VO2 of, in my 20s, it was 89. That is very, very, very high. Mine today is 62.
Right.
Rich Froning is 73. And so it's one of those things that you can train for. You can raise your number to your genetic limit, but the real area of focus is lactate threshold, and that's why people wear heart rate monitors.
Right.
So in what relation do you want that anaerobic threshold to your VO2? So
For me, a target would be, I'd love to see an athlete in the 90s. Julie Fouché is at 95%, and that is a number that is impressive to anybody in the endurance community. And so what I do with people that do that is I create that as a goal heart rate. I want to improve their work capacity at the same level of pain. So if your lactate threshold today is at a heart rate of 155, what I want to do is in the same amount of pain, right, have it be at 165. Now, when you do that, your speed is the thing that's going to improve, right? Your pain's going to be the same, your heart rate's higher, but now my speed is faster. My body's ability to withstand that lactic acid and to buffer it and to clear it is substantially better. So that is a number one focus for me in my training every week. 100% of my athletes do a workout that focuses on raising their lactate threshold. In CrossFit, we call that our maximum sustainable pace.
Got it. And the ability to flush it too, right? Which could carry over into, recovering after workouts and
so
repeating efforts.
So people like Cole Sager, Neil Maddox, these are fast twitch dominant athletes, and their ability to clear that lactate is very challenging because they're fast twitch dominant explosive athletes. It builds up to really astronomical levels, and then they've got to find a way to clear it. So imagine the games when they're running up that berm and they hit the top, they're through the roof.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Super hypoxic. They somehow during that jog have to recover.
Yeah.
That's why you train a fast twitch explosive athlete different than an athlete like me.
How often would you test these parameters, these measurements?
So if you're elite, you would do it every quarter. But if you're doing your programming properly, you really do it by feel. You're going to know when you drop off the edge of the envelope, right? You're going to know. And so proper programming in the workout where you're doing a pacing-based workout, when you near the end of it and you're holding on to the edge of that pace to the end and you're like, oh man, I barely made it, then you know you've covered below that threshold, at that threshold, and above that threshold, which is going to guide that number up.
Interesting. Yeah, I think one of the best examples I've seen of someone who has a really good ability to flush or to buffer is Samantha Briggs. And I always remember this video. It was when 2 years ago, I think, when it was the thruster burpee workout in the open. When everyone was laid on the ground on their back, she got done. She kind of looked around. Yeah. And of course, they were all in equal pain, more than likely, but her ability to recover from that so much faster was very noticeable.
And that is a developable skill.
Yeah.
You can develop that skill. That is something that, with proper training, you can raise your number.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Let's do one more question. We're getting a little short on time, so I want to be conscious of yours as well. From J.D. Gomez, 17. Oh, nope, sorry. Well, I already said the name. Now I got to read it. All right, we'll go and do it real quick. How do you determine an athlete's split times when training their aerobic capacity CrossFit? Obviously, distances will demand different splits, but it is based on individuals' baselines, best mile time. Still with me?
Yes.
Okay. Are there standard times for each distance to develop aerobic capacity? Example, Rich Froning's workout on the recently uploaded Road to the Games video on CrossFit page.
So you have to, again, as I said from the beginning, train a multitude of gears. CrossFitters are not specialists, and so we're not targeting one specific distance to be great at. We want to be really good at 400 meters up to 5,000 meters. We want to be good at different time domains. So you practice those time domains. If you're going to be running for 40 minutes, your pace is going to be different than running for 20 minutes. So your workouts are all geared around the stimulus that you're trying to accomplish. So for everybody, what they need to do is they need to create an independent assessment of themselves. Where when you go out and you do a run, are those 100-meter sprints easy for you? Or is those workouts where I prescribe 5 by 2,000 meters going to present the challenge?
Right.
That should become your focal point.
Got it.
That is the area that will bring you the biggest value for your time.
Got it. Very cool. Is there anything else that you would want to add? Any things you want to recommend, places we can find you with more information?
Yeah, so most of the questions that I get are about workouts and how do I build my knowledge. On aerobiccapacity.com, my website, that site I list 4 different running workouts every single Sunday night. They will be there first thing Monday morning for you. They're on there for free every week. There's 4 different stimuluses for adaptation. There's also row workout, there's a swim workout, and a bike workout. Every week they're on there for free. I also recently partnered up with CrossFit. My CrossFit Aerobic Capacity course is now a specialty course, part of CrossFit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so just that I can't even. It's
exciting.
Oh my gosh! So we've been lucky enough to load 13 courses from now through the end of October.
Oh wow, awesome.
Yeah, so that it's so great to have the opportunity to share the information. And And what I do is in that course, I never hold back. You know, when that course was really created, it was done with Matt Chan, and I laid out kind of, you know, these ideas, and he's like, you need to share everything with the community, everything, and don't hold back. If a question is asked, you share it. And I do. I share my methodology, I share my research, I share all of my data. And that's what you learn in that seminar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
Very cool. Yeah.
Oh, you got any other questions?
No.
I'm knowledge bomb dropped in the face right now. Chris,
well, we had a lot of more questions on there. So I mean, on Instagram.
on the Barbell Shrug Instagram page.
Yeah,
there were a lot more.
Do you have an Instagram or anything like that?
Where could they reach out?
So I do. So my my Instagram is Hinshaw363, HINSHAW 363. I also do some posts on the aerobic capacity site as well. If welcome to approach and talk anytime. I know there's a bunch of questions. I really genuinely share all of that. I am a huge fan of CrossFit, and I really credit it for saving my life and giving me my health back. Cool. And I'm grateful for that every single day. And so whatever I can do to give back to the community, I'm going to do it.
Word. Yeah,
Awesome.
I mean, we could probably tag you on ours at Barbell Shrug Podcast, and if you want to answer any of those questions that we didn't get to, then
we should just do that.
Yeah,
we should.
Because that's how I learn too.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. We appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank
All
you.
right, man. Cool. Thank you.